starting now. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Sure.
So, yeah, so as Edwin was explaining, whoever wants to start can start. They'll pick someone that they want to speak to, and then the listener will reflect it back to them. And we'll do that for 5 minutes. I've got a timer, so you don't need to worry about any of that. And if, once the 5 minutes, when it gets there, if you're still, speaking, then I'll just show you, make a little sign, but that doesn't mean that you need to stop right there and then. You can, finish your idea or whatever you're sharing then, and find yourself a close then, and then we'll move on. Yeah. So is there anyone that feels like they would like to start?
I can start.
Yeah.
Amy, is that how your name is pronounced?
Yes, Amy.
Yeah. It's just such a huge topic to discuss. There's so many different parts of it. And I feel, first of all, I want to start with that I feel some disappointment and annoyance because Edwin has totally left the other circles and just put all his energy into XR. I feel some disappointment about that, and some anger also. Yeah, so I want to start there.
So you feel like this is a really huge topic to be talking about, but you also have quite a burning thing that you want to share, which is that you feel a bit annoyance of and anger over that Edwin has kind of is focusing on XR stuff and has kind of left all the other circles.
Yeah. And it's totally selfish of me to think that, I know, because I'm for being for changing the climate, but that is not my burning issue that I believe we need to change in the world. So I felt that he has abandoned me, but I also feel that he has abandoned the real issue, which is, for example, the issue of lacking empathy in the world.
Mm-hmm. So you certainly seem to you're saying that you feel abandoned because you feel like Edwin has abandoned the issue, the main issue for you as to what's needed in the world is more empathy. And yeah.
And I know that it's totally selfish of me to think that like that, because he has to put his energy into things that he feels passionate about. I know that, but yeah. Okay, so I'm done there. You can reflect that.
So you feel like you're being selfish, and you know that you feel that you're being selfish, but you also recognize that that's where he needs to go. But yeah, you have your own feelings about it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So the where I see the world is where we are all not healed from our traumas, from our issues, both emotionally but spiritually. I truly believe that we can't save this world without being healed ourselves. I don't believe that we're ever going to create a climate change when we all have so much turmoil within ourselves.
Yeah. So your feeling is that in the world then, like we need so much healing, both emotionally and spiritually, and that there's no way that we can like make the changes that we need to in terms of climate change unless we get rid of all the turmoil that we're going through as in the world.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I feel. And I feel that XR is some kind of putting a bandage on the real issue. So that's why I'm feeling a little bit annoyance, but that is my opinion. I don't know if that is reality, but that is how I view it. So maybe that's why I'm a little irritated about this, because I'm seeing them putting a bandage on the real issues, which is we need to take care of our own inner stuff first before we start to go out in the world. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
So really you see all the XR stuff as just being a band-aid, and what lies underneath that is our need to really heal ourselves. And you can see that's kind of where your frustration's coming from, is that you can see that that's the way that it's going when it's not dealing with the issue that lies underneath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. I feel heard.
Good. It's nice to hear you.
Okay.
Am I supposed to say more things? Okay.
No,
sorry.
So now you pick someone to be your listener, and
Okay.
then you get 5 minutes to be listened to.
Okay. Bob, would you be so kind as to listen to me?
I'm listening.
Okay. Great. So again, it's a huge topic, and I don't really know what's going to come up, but I suppose my immediate thought when I started to consider that I would have to talk about this was the natural world, and my hope that in the future there still will be a natural world to it's a very selfish view, but to enjoy, because for me I live in a very natural place and I get a lot of pleasure from the trees and the birds and the butterflies. So yeah, really the protection and the enhancement of the natural world is very much part of the future that I would love to think that we're moving towards.
So I hear you saying that the natural world is a tremendous treasure for you, that you treasure the birds and the butterflies and the trees, and that your deep hope is to preserve our world so that you can continue to enjoy it.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and really that I know there's so much more to it than that, than just that it's my pleasure. But really the idea that our future generations might not know the sound of a certain species call, or things that are so common to us now that might not be known in the future, makes me incredibly sad. And it also scares me a lot, because I feel like the human connection to nature is incredibly important in order to I don't know, be human, be part of this world.
So you are saddened and frightened by the possibility that future generations will not be able to hear a particular bird call and not be able to appreciate the beauty of our natural world. And so you are afraid and upset.
Yeah. So I suppose maybe I should think about socially, what would I like? It's very difficult. I don't want to get bogged down in the negative elements of being very involved in a movement where I have to read a lot of material which has got very bad news in it. And so actually it's a nice process to start thinking, okay, well, what is the future that we do want? But I suppose I'm finding it a little bit difficult because I have opened myself out of procrastination, I suppose, over allowing issues, environmental issues and things into my head. I've gone from there to being completely overloaded by them. So I'm finding it a bit difficult to get myself into that headspace, which is unfortunate since this is the topic.
So you are facing our topic of what do you want to see as a vision for the future? And yet you are reading tremendous amounts of material about how bad things are. So the conflict between what you were hoping for and what you realize is creates some tension inside you.
Yeah, and it makes me difficult for me to think about it, I suppose. But of course, in the future, I would like everybody to be happy. I would like there to be a world which is fairer, a lot fairer. I would like to see people caring for each other and see cultures of empathy, just to use that word. That'd be good to get that in there, because we are lacking in it seriously. And I would like to see that across society, not just in certain sections of it, I suppose.
So you're hoping for a culture of fairness, of caring for each other, a culture of empathy, not just in local groups, but worldwide, and allowing everyone to enjoy the fruits of fairness, caring, and empathy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd also like people to eat more vegetables. And I've been given the card, so given that I'm just kind of going, okay, right, let's just chuck all the good things in there, then I can probably stop in that. Just more vegetables would be good. Nice,
So
fresh
you're
ones.
an advocate for more vegetables. Eat
Yes,
more vegetables.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Martha, would you please listen to me?
Yes, I will.
I resonate with Amy and Sophia. The human's person is programmed for more pathology than any of us can live out in one lifetime.
Yeah. So you resonate with both Amy and Sophia, and you're saying that that humans have are prone to more pathologies than what they can live out in one lifetime.
Right, right. And at the same time, I believe each human person has the potential for tremendous amounts of fairness, caring, empathy, and
yeah. And in spite of it, you feel like there is tremendous capacity for all these qualities in human nature.
And I'm trying to figure out how to most effectively help myself and those I love and those around me to give up the bad programming and accentuate and emphasize and rejoice in the good stuff.
Mm. Yeah, so you're trying to figure out how for yourself and those around you, you can move, you can move into the good part of it. Yeah.
And I'm a retired teacher, and for many years I tried to encourage young people to forsake the bad and choose the good. And I don't think I was very successful at it.
So you're thinking about all your years in teaching and how to choose the good and leave the bad. And you're saying you don't feel like you're not convinced that you were that successful with it.
So now that I'm old and a geezer, I try to use my power and my abilities to touch people around me to help in that project. And thanks to Empathy Cafes, I'm getting better at it. And I'd like to think that I have a more sincere effort. I'm enjoying it more, and hopefully the fruits of that will emerge.
Yeah, so you feel now that, recently and that you're more mature, that you being able to share it by, being part of things like the empathy circles, that you think you can share it more now with those around you.
And so each day I try to charge my empathy batteries, to recharge them and to use them and energize the world of empathy. And it's a lovely adventure.
Yeah, so you've got a commitment now daily to move those energies of empathy towards you and, through you, and spill it around.
Thank you, Marta. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Bill, will you listen to me?
I'd be happy to.
Well, first of all, I'm very excited with all these people in Ireland coming to the empathy circles. I need to celebrate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So first, you're very excited about all the people in Ireland who have joined the empathy circle. So you're very excited and encouraged.
Yeah. What's very alive for me now about what I wish for the future, it's empathy comes up, but also authenticity comes up, and freedom, that we'll be able to grow more authentic and freer with time. Yeah.
So looking to the future, in addition to more empathic society or seeing empathy, you also think that authenticity and freedom, was that? Are two other pillars, or that you'd like to also see going forward.
Yeah, and I think that comes up in opposition to what I'm afraid of. I think that's often the case. I'm afraid. I wonder. Yeah, empathy is good, and connections are certainly good. I feel there's the thing for me about authenticity is that empathy can be comfortable, and I think, as my vision for the future is, it's also important that we walk a bit towards the uncomfortable too.
Okay, so in entertaining the concept of empathy and projecting that forward, you feel that it could be comfortable, but also that rather than simply just comforting, we may have to deal with uncomfortable things. And we can't really shy away from those issues when we feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's the feeling like I feel around me there needs to be a willingness to walk towards conflict or tension. You know, you can look at it as conflict, or you could look at it as tension. And I feel like part of this vision of a future is that everyone is free of speaking their truth without having, that they can speak their truth and be received with empathy, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. So you see that that as things unfold, that we as a society have to kind of walk in or feel into conflict, which then you also kind of transform into tension. When you think of conflict, you think of some sort of clash. Tension means that there's a possibility, but there's also another possibility to go another way. And that's where you want to see empathy and listening, so that people can really feel, even if it's not necessarily a popular opinion, that they can feel heard and supported within that.
Yeah. And the last thing, so I suppose for my vision used to be that we end trauma in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, that each generation would have better resources than the last, and not just physical resources, but also emotional resources, and therefore there will be less trauma in the world. And now I think we'll just have to work harder at it, because it's not that simple anymore. Okay.
So previously, you kind of saw sloping uphill towards less trauma, that future generations would have more resources and will also be better schooled and trained in empathy and other things like that, so that it would be kind of a clear kind of travel to a more empathic society. But you're seeing that that's not the case. Things are more complicated, and that I think what I hear is that you still hold the value of empathy, but it needs to be taken into new places and uncomfortable places as well.
Thank you, Bill. I feel fully heard.
Okay, great. All right. Sophia, would you listen to me? Okay. You're still muted there. There we
Yes.
go. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I'll be glad to.
Okay. Well, I've resonated with a lot of things that everybody has said. I live in Northern California, and we live in a beautiful area of the world. I was just down in Monterey Bay yesterday, where there are still whales and sea otters and harbor seals and white pelicans, and I could go on. And I love that. And I really, I do feel like Amy, it's sort of selfish, but I really need that. That's part of who I am. And when I go into those environments, I remember who I am. I'll stop there.
Yeah, so you resonated with what everybody here said, and you seem to really enjoy the area that you live in. It seems to be a lot of natural things happening there, and that's a part of who you are. So you don't want to miss out on that.
Right, and I'd like to see people who come after me. I mean, this was a heritage given to me, and I'd like to also try to be a steward and give it to people who come after me too, because it's really wonderful. We'll stop there.
Yeah, you like to see the people who live after you experience that also.
Right. And moving forward, I also really appreciate what Marta said about moving into uncomfortable places. One of the things that I do fear is that everything is so serious and so dire, which I don't necessarily dispute, but I do dispute the fact that we have to become serious and despondent and humorless. As a special education teacher, I experienced some very dark places, and humor always helps. I mean, it can hurt too. I mean, you can be like tell a stupid joke, which I have done. Full disclosure, but nevertheless, in the most dire situations, a nice gentle humor and stuff like that. I call it the universal lubricant. It can get you through everything.
Yeah, so at first I heard you say that you fear that we lose our sense of humor and all the seriousness.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're sort of like feeling some kind of fondness towards humor, and that we maybe we need that also, some kind of kind humor in all the seriousness. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes. No, that's great. I was going to say, I mean, there are some things that are kind of worrisome when people start to talk about, capitalism, which I do not think should be worshipped as we worship it today. Definitely not. But on the other hand, people say, "Oh, capitalism is well, so what are you going to replace it with, and who makes that decision?" And there have been several things. The social democracies in Europe, I think, I personally like a lot. But the socialist autocracies or communist autocracies like China and North Korea, things like that, I don't like a lot. And so I think we need some discernment. I'll stop there.
Yeah, sorry, my phone called, so I didn't hear everything you said.
Sure.
But,
okay. Do you want me to summarize?
Yeah, you were talking about capitalism and also about communism, and
right.
I heard you say some sort of we need to find a way in the middle because none of it is good. Is that correct?
None of it's good. But there's a difference between a multinational corporation and a family who's trying to make a living running a restaurant or a grocery store on the corner, and those sorts of things have been a wonderful way for people in the out group, wherever they are, to gain a foothold in the societies in which they live. And on the other hand, I certainly don't believe that in where I live in Northern California, we have a big power company who puts profits, ahead of people. And I don't, and certainly I don't think that that's a good thing either.
Right. Okay. So you can see how that benefits sort of local people like you to start their own companies and make a living, but you can't see how that would promote a better living for big companies to make a lot of money on other people. Is that correct?
Not exactly, no. No, it's fun. I was just contrasting. When you say capitalism, essentially you include the small grocery store that's owned by an immigrant family and also the big multinational corporations. And I guess my point is that those are two very different things and need to be approached very differently. That's it.
Yeah, okay. Can I reflect that?
Sure.
Yeah, you see the difference between small companies who local companies and that kind of multinational companies. And those are two very different things. They are both capitalism, but they do very different things.
Thank you, Sophia. I feel fully heard. That's great.
Then I'll pick Marta.
Yeah.
I was just writing down a couple of thoughts because I really want to go into the kind of future that I want to see in the world. Yeah, you can reflect that.
Yeah, so you made some notes because you wanted to gather your ideas about what you envision for the world.
Exactly. And what I want to see in the future generations is for children, and I really feel really strongly about this, for all children to have safe, secure attachments, both with their parents, but also with their communities. Because I truly believe that when our nervous system is in balance, we start to do good in the world.
Yeah, it's a very strong thought, but also very emotional thought for you, that this belief that if there was, you wish for all the children everywhere in the world to have good attachments to their families, to their communities, and that if that was there, that would really bring a lot of good to the world. Yeah, and that's quite important to you, and quite tender as well.
Yeah, because I'm one of those children who didn't get a safe attachment. And I know I've worked with kids. I know that a lot of kids don't get this kind of safe attachment from anyone. And I don't see how we can save this planet if we don't start to think about this. If parents, before they get children, before they even plan getting a child into the world, deal with your own stuff. Deal with your own stuff, because there are so many parents out in the world that isn't thinking about this. They're only thinking about what to do the right thing. Now, okay, now I'm gonna get a house and a partner and a car and a kid, and then I will have the perfect life. And that's the problem with this world. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Sorry,
it's a wish you have. It's a wish you have for the world, but it's also a very personal wish, because it's something that you did not get to experience yourself.
Yeah.
And you see, it makes a huge difference in your experience of seeing children and seeing the potential there if they do get the opportunity to develop those strong attachments, and that you feel like the changes in the world that need to happen won't be possible if people don't give this the priority it needs, and actually look at proper supports and attachment for children. And yeah, you're also saying that what you see, what you observe is that parents thinking of having children focus on the practicalities of putting a life together, working in a certain way with things that are expected of them, instead of focusing on this thing that you think is very important for the world.
Exactly, exactly. And it doesn't matter if you don't eat meat. It doesn't matter if you recycle. It doesn't matter if you stop flying. If you don't treat your kids with respect, you're gonna fuck up the world anyway. I'm sorry, I'm angry about this. Yeah, those are my feelings, my frustrations about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're angry. You're very angry because you think that if you don't address those things, you can do all the other efforts, all the personal, sacrifices of the not flying or all the other things, and it really won't make a difference if you don't.
Yeah, you can be the perfect environmental friendly person, but if you don't care about your children's well-being, and I mean their emotional well-being, you're gonna fuck up the world anyway. So start there. I just want to sure I know.
Yeah, no, so you just reinforced that idea that really there is, that it is something that is a cause for anger and for very strong feelings, because it's hopeless the way you see it. It's
Yes.
totally hopeless, that unless you give children a good emotional basis to begin with, everything else is pretty, it's hopeless.
Thank you. I feel hurt.
Amy, will you listen to me?
Yes, I'd love to.
I'm feeling very grateful for everything really that Sophia named. Yeah.
You're feeling very grateful.
Yeah. I think, Sophia articulated what I was trying to articulate and couldn't do so clearly. Because when I mentioned trauma, that is, it is the attachment that I'm talking about, I suppose. Yeah.
So yeah, you're feeling particularly grateful about everything that Sophia was saying, because she managed to articulate in a way that you can resonate with something that you weren't able to articulate, particularly in terms of that trauma really is the connection which you were talking about, that you feel is such a problem for us.
Yeah. And I have this belief that it might not be, it might not be with therapy or any of these, it might even not use the word attachment at all, but that, it's part of this change towards empathy and these more resilient human beings we want to be, that a lot of it is at the level of our nervous system, that we need to learn how to settle ourselves. Because if we don't know how to settle, then really activating ourselves, the way all of the news and everything else that comes, it's dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
It's just, that we can settle ourselves.
Yeah. So you're talking about our need to settle ourselves, like not just on an exterior emotional level, but like literally at a nervous system level, that it goes that deep, and that in order to move towards this culture of empathy, that really we need to deal with things on that level.
Yeah. Because, there was a craze about meditation some years back, and that's a good thing. But it goes, for me, it goes down to the child in all of us, whether we had lucky parenting or we didn't have, an ideal parenting around us, that everyone gets helped in learning how to parent themselves.
So yeah, really for you, it's all about parenting, and some of us were luckier than others in terms of what we received as children, and that we're in desperate need of having more information, more support, I don't know, in order to learn how to parent ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that the communities, my hope, I suppose, it's part of the vision for future, is that the communities of our choice, the families we choose, and by the communities we build in XR and outside of XR, that in a way we can teach each other. So that's the hope for me coming up, that we can teach each other how to better parent ourselves and each other, so that even if, that at least we can model it within these communities. We might not be able to save everything, but at least we can model it a bit.
Yeah. So really your hope for the future is that through our families of choice, our communities that we build through empathy circles or XR or whatever it is, that we can model the ways, the means that we may be able to create this empathic culture, and pass that on to each other, future generations. That sounds nice.
Thank you, Amy.
No problem. So Bill, will you listen to me, please?
Happily.
I'm conscious that I don't know, I don't feel nervous as such, but I feel conscious of myself, and I still haven't thought of anything to say, particularly because I've been trying to listen. But that's okay too.
Okay.
And
so,
go on. Sorry, go on.
Okay, so you're having a bit of performance anxiety over because you've been listening and you're a little bit new to this process, and so now you're feeling kind of self-judgment about having nothing to say yet. So you're trying to come up with something.
Precisely. I'm noticing within myself that my concentration levels are not great. I think that may be because I've been using a lot of screens recently. I've been trying to do my tax returns, which has been something that's been of panic. So my hope for the future is that my wife does the tax returns. That would be good. But on a more serious level, and I suppose going to our life here, we own a little small holding which we've had for about 18 months, and in the future I would like it to be a place of extraordinarily natural beauty and abundance.
Okay, so you're coming kind of emerging from that quandary about what to say, and you were thinking that your attention span is somewhat fragmented because you've been doing a lot of screens, and especially your taxes. And so hopefully there would be, if your wife really loved you, she would do the taxes in in the future, which is always a winning gambit. And then you have a small holding there, and you're really looking to see in the future of being in a place of beauty and nurturing and happiness.
Yes, absolutely. I really want, I mean, it's been my my dream, if you like, to own a piece of land that I can get my teeth into for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And but us moving here has also coincided with you know, ideas of what the future may be, also changing in my head. And so I have a very strong desire to be designing what we do on our small holding to be as resilient to what may happen in terms of climate in our lifetimes and beyond our lifetimes too.
So you originally had a vision for your holding and what you wanted to create, but as you've lived life, you've experienced that the especially with climate change, the parameters and the rules are changing, and so you feel the need to also amend your kind of vision to make it more resilient, so that you can create that sense of safety and beauty even in a changing climate.
Yeah. And it would always have been the aim to make a resilient system, like kind of quite inspired by permaculture and things, and that would always have been the plan. But now that's even more so. We had quite a serious drought here in Ireland where it rains an awful lot most of the time last year, and it made a lot of people sit up and think, oh, what if that happened a couple of years, 3 years in a row? So we need to make things so that they can resist the strongest winds, that they can resist the strongest rains, that they can resist the strongest droughts. And so it's just putting that into perspective as to how important what I plan to do and what we design into the system now, how important that is.
So then your original vision is very aligned with what you have now. But as you've really experienced, for instance, the drought in Ireland and other things, you see how important it is to really focus on that resiliency and try to mitigate the effects of a changing climate as best you can, and still create, create a beautiful, safe space.
Yeah, that's it. And which the idea of that in the future makes me very, very happy indeed. But in order to do that, thanks, Marta. In order to do that, it's going to be a lot of hard work. And in order to stay a happy, healthy person, this kind of work is incredibly important, because I need to be able to communicate with my wife, not just tell her to do the taxes and be done with it.
Yes.
And we need to stay happy, healthy, communicative people within ourselves, because we have great tasks ahead of us. Okay.
So again, you're seeing the enormity of the task and the challenges. You're also wanting to make sure that what you want from your relationship is a lot more than just simply your wife doing the taxes, but actually really strengthening that communication and really reinforcing each other and supporting each other as you go forward. And then hopefully that translates also into support for your holding and the people live around you and the greater, society as a whole.
Exactly. Thank you very much. That's great.
Okay. All right, Bob?
I'm listening.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really encouraged because I find that, people are doing what, Marta said and what Sophia referred to, was just that, we're walking into the uncomfortable space. We're really kind of taking a realistic look at the challenges. And when people look at reality, at least in my opinion, that's what we're doing here, then you actually can craft solutions that deal with reality that can be effective. I'll stop there.
So you are aware that we are getting into uncomfortable territory. And as we move into this uncomfortable zone of reality, you are also aware that we have the resources available to us to meet it and change it for the better.
Right. And I'm a great believer in the greatness that lives within all of us. And I think you alluded to that earlier, and Martha and others, that yes, we are pretty, we're flawed, all of us. But as I've seen with even special ed kids, there's greatness in us as well. And as you can look at it, one philosopher said, if you think that the world was created by the Lord and you look around and you see what's happening, you could be really disappointed. But if you think that it was created by a bunch of monkeys, pretty impressive.
So you are in agreement with others this morning that there is a flawed aspect to all of us, and there is also greatness within us. And you contrast those who think it's created by the Lord and created by monkeys. Wow, pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I think that the struggle is great. I think that what I really like, what I would tell my kids is in my class is that fail as much as you want, succeed as much as you want, but what I wouldn't accept was a give up attitude because persistence is what turns failure into success.
So as some people endeavor and work toward something, there will be failure, there will be success, but the key is not failure or success, but perseverance.
You got it. Thank you, Bob. I really feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay. Sophia, would you please listen to me?
Yes.
Marta mentioned meditation, and I've been meditating for 38 years now, and I claim that it works.
You have been meditating for 38 years, and it works.
And I hope that every human being on the planet can find an individual practice that leads to wholeness, and also a community that fosters wholeness and supports each person on that journey.
So you're hoping that each and every person on this planet finds a way to help them find wholeness, and that they live in a community that helps them foster wholeness too.
Exactly. And over the past 3 or 4 years, I've met through online groups, through in-person groups, more and more people who share this kind of vision, and I'm very encouraged by it.
Yeah, so you have found people who share your kind of vision. I'm not sure what that is, but you're feeling encouraged by it.
Right. On the other hand, yesterday marked the 1-year anniversary of the death by gunfire of 12 people 3 miles from my house. And earlier this week, 9 people were killed by gunfire in Mexico. And there are a lot of angry people with guns and power and decision-making abilities that are really making it difficult for many of us to have a good life.
Yeah, so you're sharing a lot of gunfire killings in your environment, in your country, and you can see that is making it harder for you to Yeah, making it harder for them to live in that kind of wholeness. Is that correct?
And part of the truth that I've found through meditation is that I have to be able to suffer, be willing to suffer in order that progress can be made.
So you have to be willing to suffer in order to progress. Yeah.
And even in the midst of that suffering, I want to draw on those resources within me and without me that can empower me to love the people who are doing those horrible things.
Yeah, so through this suffering of yours, you can find empathy. Is that what I'm hearing? For those people who commit those kind of crimes.
And I was traveling with Elizabeth to one of our beautiful state parks here in California. And we talked to a ranger there who doesn't have much hope for our species. He thinks the planet will survive, but he doesn't think that the human being will survive.
Yeah, so you talked to a ranger who doesn't have much hope for our species. You think that the planet will survive and that we will not.
And I hope he's wrong.
And your hope is wrong.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Bill.
Listening.
I truly believe in this saying that a society that doesn't take care of its weakest isn't a rich society.
Okay, so we're starting with the premise that a society that really doesn't look after its weakness is not really rich in very in a broad sense, in a deep sense.
Yeah. Even our industrialized societies, we don't take care of the weakest people. So that shows us that we are not very rich, and that when looking at it from this kind of point of view.
Okay, so even in societies, industrial societies with a lot of economic wealth, we're not taking care of our weakest people, and so therefore they're somewhat impoverished. Our societies are impoverished.
Yeah, and I believe that we who are sitting here are privileged in that way, because there are people out there and which are killing others, shooting others, criminals who are making a living out of being criminal. And that just shows us that we don't have a very our society is not that advanced. We have some shit to take care of.
Okay, so in our societies, there's a lot of criminality on various different levels, and we haven't really addressed that. So we have to do that, address that issue before we move forward.
Yeah, and my vision for the future, I've been listening a lot to a guy who talks a lot about AI, and we don't talk a lot about that, the artificial intelligence and what that is going to do for our society. And yeah, you can reflect, because yeah.
Okay, so you've been listening to a person who's been talking a lot about artificial intelligence, and that's intrigued you and added something, but which you haven't elaborated on yet.
Yeah, and I truly believe that as artificial intelligence is going to take over our common jobs, we are gonna progress. My vision is this. I'm not sure we're gonna go that way, but we're gonna progress into a society where we don't have to work that much. And if we don't have to work that much physically, we have more time to think. And I really believe that humans need to think more about all kinds of things. I don't think we have the time to do that. And meditate, as Bob said.
Okay. So you're saying that as artificial intelligence kind of develops and takes over some of the more routine tasks that we have, we'll have more time to think. And you're thinking that, or your belief is that we really do need to think and really refine that and develop that ability to think. And I would assume, well, I'll just add, if that's critically think.
Exactly, and reflect and ponder different things, ponder the meaning of life. Maybe we will even have time to empathize with other people. We will have time to empathize with the nature. We will have time to think about the environment. And because I don't believe that people are so stressed today that they don't have time to think about those things. Reflect. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. So you're thinking that this this development of AI may actually give the people time to meditate and to think and to ponder and to do all of that intellectual hard work that we need to do, both within ourselves and also in society, in order to create a better society.
Yeah. So those are my hopes for the future. I hope that we will progress into that kind of development where we work less and we ponder and reflect more upon all kinds of things.
So you hope that we develop this society where people do have the time and are not so stressed out, that they can then ponder and look at the big questions of life and think about them and act on them.
Yes, thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, great. All right. Let's see who I haven't talked to. Amy?
Okay.
Thank you. Well, a lot of things. I guess for what's happening for me is that I'm thinking of all these things, and there are a lot of concepts and stuff, and I love that stuff. And I don't do just, I like thinking. I love thinking. But I'm really, what I'm feeling is a need to sort of define a path forward. I'll stop there.
So you're feeling a need to define a path forward because there's lots of different concepts which are coming up, and you really like to think. So now you're trying to kind of hone them into a path forward. Thank
you. Yeah. And I'm trying to do that, but this is sort of my practice, to listen to people and reflect. And actually, I think this is quite a metaphysical or spiritual / whatever you want to call exercise. That I know that my brain chemistry changes, and then I change by listening to others. And I think that the promise of the circles is that rather than being conditioned to look at that as an invasion, I find that the experience of doing it is an expansion.
Mm-hmm. So you find this experience of sharing and being listened to and listen. Yes, that's the way around. Being incredibly an expansive experience, and that really your experience changes on a metaphysical level. Your brain is changing by doing these practices.
Yeah,
and you see that as a very positive thing.
Yeah, I do. I find that I've been doing this for about 1.5 years now, and I find that I'm much more quick to think about the other person's felt experience than I was before. I also, in thinking ahead and planning, I try to be, I'm thinking about other people and the effect more and quicker and integrating it, and it feels good.
Yeah. So it feels good for you that you're seeing the results out of a year and a half of practicing through empathy circles, and you're finding like a natural progression in that you're thinking more about other people kind of naturally almost.
Yes.
Because of the practice. So you're thinking ahead as to how somebody else might feel when you're making your plans, or you're making sure, well, not making sure, but you're naturally kind of listening to somebody more and being empathetic with them because of your practice.
Yeah. And so rather than as someone, I think we've all been conditioned to look at yourself as sort of this isolated individual, I find that life is much richer when you're part of a community.
So for you, life is definitely is richer when you're with a community or part of a community, and you don't think that being isolated is the way to go, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, we have to evolve and change, and I think that by listening to others, that is a very grounded and productive way to go forward.
Yeah. So for you, actually listening to each other is a really great way of moving forward and developing ourselves into the future.
Thank you, Amy. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Marta, can you? Hello, could you listen to me, please, from over there? Still finding it difficult to know what to say. Maybe, I suppose I was talking about my my dream for a long time of owning land, and so at various points in my life I have considered the idea of communal living, of like I'm lost the word. What's the word? Like an eco village kind of thing. Yeah. But really that was kind of when I was a lot younger than I am now, and I feel like I learnt somewhere along the pathway that actually just having the communication skills required to keep a family communicating well and working well as a unit is kind of enough for me. I don't need to be discussing everything with an entire community of people.
Yeah. So you were sort of thinking, okay, why am I going to talk now? And then you did. What came up was that for a long time you had wanted to have a piece of land of your own, and then there had been times where you thought of an eco village as as an option when you were younger, and then now just thinking of the skills that would be needed for that it's quite enough already to have good, to develop good communications within a family group. That's in itself quite
So exactly. So having my concentration on how I can communicate with Lucy, and how we develop ourselves both individually and as a unit is really important to me, because I would like a long, happy life. But recently, from becoming involved in XR, my attention has been brought to other elements of this.
Mm.
You can reflect and then I'll continue, otherwise I'll waffle on.
So yeah, you're very you've been very focused in developing your communication with Lucy, and the development of yourself, and all of that, and then that's a skill and a focus for yourself. And now more recently there's the thing of the communications with XR.
Yeah, so really by becoming part of XR, I have been bringing myself out of myself, slowly, very cautiously, but it is happening. I notice it's happening, because whereas before I was not insular, but very focused on how I create a land-based business. This isn't my first business, so I've done it in different places. That fulfills the land and fulfills my needs. But now we have something which is much, much bigger than that, that I feel compelled to join in with, and it needs more skills than I have currently.
Yeah, so you felt like you had it sort of figured out, in a sense, what you were doing for yourself and for the land, and creating the business around that. Not your first business, but business around the land, and that was set, and there was a plan for it, and then there was a new layer that came in. It still demands other skills and demands other layers of work that take you outside of that more insular self.
Exactly. Yeah, because the insular self still needed still needed self-care. I have come to know where my boundaries lie, because I mean it's the same as everybody's life, but like when you work incredibly hard for a big chunk of the year, you can really do yourself damage if you're not careful. And so I'm aware of my boundaries and what I'm willing to take on and not take on. But now I'm taking on something so huge, I cannot do this alone. And it's incredibly empowering, and it fills me full of love and joy to see the kind of connections that can be made in order to do something really radical, and in order to make a statement that's incredibly radical. And I'm starting to dip my toes into how to build my skills, not just for myself and relating that back to myself and my land and the land project and my family and all of that, but also to create a wider community of people who want to push for a better future.
So you were thinking that there's a certain, when you're working with the land, there's a certain seasonality of it. There's times where you're all consumed with the work that you're doing, and it's all the focus is on there, and it's really important to focus on the self-care that goes along with that, so it's measured, and you can sustain that level of energy. And then really at the same time, with everything that is happening on a bigger scale with XR and the rest, it really takes a community, which puts things into perspective. That it's bigger skills are needed, and it's a big and sometimes overwhelming scale. At the same time, it's not a small endeavor, so there's other people to do it with and to do it together in community.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Where do I go? I don't remember. Bob?
I'm listening.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm spaced out, as sometimes happens with these calls. Yeah. Hmm. I feel like I need to do some meditation more often.
I hear you saying that you feel the need to meditate more often.
Mm. Yeah. So, oh, let me get this started. It is, you know, I have had all these visions of what a future, an ideal future would look like for me, for the world, and that involves things like, you know, education for all, closer living to the land, community raising of children, that the elderly not be left alone, you know, and not just the elderly, I suppose, anyone who's at the risk of being a bit at the margins, that we take care of each other and of people. I had this sort of vision, and in a way, it was an idyllic vision. On the other hand, I now think it probably was not ambitious enough.
So I hear you saying that as you are developing a vision for perhaps an idyllic world, but a better world, including living closer to the land, education for all, including those who feel marginalized, who are marginalized. You're wondering if there's even more to it than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose I feel that with climate change and knowing all these things now, it's more all or nothing game. And so things that I thought were not possible, like having a world with no money, for example, where the there's value, things can have value and we can share them, but I thought, well, there's no point in trying to imagine a world without money, because that's just the way things are. And now, with the reality where everything's changing anyway, I think maybe it's not so absurd to consider a world without money.
So as you ponder this newer, bigger vision, the topic of money comes up. Do we actually have to have money? As things are changing so radically, why don't we change radically about appreciating value, but not having money as part of the equation?
Yeah. It's like everything that was normal is not normal anymore. If you have enough information, not yeah. And so, if there is no normal, or if that's something that can be, for me there was never any normal. That's yeah. But it would be hard to sell to most people that there is no normal. In a situation where normal is changing or going to change so rapidly, I feel it might be easier to convince people that there is no normal.
So in the past, you have not been able to identify yourself as a participant in the normal, and with changing conditions, there is no more normal, and you're hoping that more people can accept that concept and abandon any restrictive normalcy to open up to a new possibility.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. I feel heard.
Okay. I'm going to quickly share something. Oh, darn. My great-grandmother came to this country from Goleen, County Cork. And a few years ago, Elizabeth and I visited Limerick, and I took this picture, which I think is a wonderful picture of all the colors of Ireland coming together in happiness and peace.
Bob, I live about 10 miles from Goleen. Beautiful, beautiful part of the world.
One of the most beautiful
Lovely.
places I've ever been. So I'm going to pass and say
Come
thank you.
visit.
Huh?
Come visit.
Yeah, again. Yes, we will. So I pass to Bill.
Okay. All right, I'll talk to Sophia.
I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of interesting, conversations. I'm sort of taking in the different struggles from different perspectives as we all try to kind of look at it's our shared world, and yet we have all individual perspectives. And I think that that's a good first step. I'll stop there.
Yeah, you're taking in that we have different perspectives, and you're just noticing just taking that in is the first step.
Yeah. And I don't have too much. Just keep on. The way I approach my work and everything, you just keep on showing up every day. You just keep on working.
Yeah, you don't have much, and you just show up every day and keep on working.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Thank you. Bob?
I'm listening.
Yeah, that's really true, because we really have different perspective, all of us. It's just so clearly when Bill just noticed that, and we're sitting here listening to each other. So I just want to acknowledge that.
So you're acknowledging what Bill said, that various perspectives shared bring a unity and a community that you appreciate.
Yeah. And I'm noticing a little bit frustration, because I wanted some sort of more argument against my opinions, but I didn't get anything. But I don't know what that is about. Is that me only wanting conflict because I know that I'm sitting with a lot of anger today because of something else? So maybe I'm just trying to be immature about this. I don't know.
So you're feeling some tension. You acknowledge some anger from a different situation, and you're just kind of asking what's going on here.
Yeah. And just acknowledging this, that it might be a little bit immature to do this kind of behavior is the kind of thing that I respect in others also, and appreciate in others. Just, hey, I'm being really immature now. That's what I want to see in the world. Just people admitting to their struggles. I think, yeah.
So what you're looking for is people in a world who acknowledge their struggles and admit their struggles.
Yeah, instead of just like blaming all the other people who are wrong and who are not doing it right, just sit with your own things and listen to other people instead. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
So instead of blaming others and projecting problems onto others, you invite folks just to sit with their own struggles and admit them and acknowledge them.
Yeah, because I was sitting here thinking that all of these people who I'm sitting here, they don't have my struggles, and they have it all that easy, and of course it's easy to sit there and think about the climate change, but if you have the kind of struggles that I have, you don't care about that. But then I was just like, oh my God, I'm sitting here just, what's the name? I'm just sort of like sitting in my own negativity, because I don't, thank God there are people who want to take that fight, because I can't take it. I have too much issues. I'm just feeling really vulnerable now.
So you're feeling vulnerable and you have issues, and other people don't have the same issues you do, and you don't want to be immature about it.
Right. Yeah, I just went into this conversation like I'm just going to tear everybody else down. But now I'm just feeling very tender about all the people that are sitting here.
So instead of tearing other people down, you're just sitting here and one of the group.
Yeah, I'm feeling tender about what everybody shares and what's going on in their lives.
Feeling tender.
Yeah. The breakout room will close in 24 seconds. Yeah.
They'll take us back.
Yeah. Is there something more I want to say? No, I think I want to end with that. I'm just feeling tender right now.
All right.
Thank you.
For the other group to pop in.
Some of us just popped in.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and then I'm going to start it again, because this last part we're going to just